Hello, how you guys doing today? Welcome in. I'm going to give a few seconds for people to jump on the live, and if you do, excuse me, on the live if you do, and while you're coming in, drop where you're watching from in the comments. While we wait, I want to talk about something real quick. A lot of people are using AI wrong. They're typing basic prompts and getting basic answers and saying AI doesn't work for them, and that's like buying a gym membership and only using the parking lot. Now, what I do and what I teach at Promptify is prompt engineering that can sound complicated, but it literally just means knowing how to talk to AI so it gives you something you can actually use. Today, I'm going to show you in a topic, and by the end of this, you'll be able to do this yourself in about 5 minutes. Everything I show you is inside Promptify, and the link is in my bio, and it's free to start. So, to kind of summarize what I'll be talking about today is, or since, yeah, so the sense to summarize pretty much the system that we'll talk about, right, is um, build a research to action loop that stays honest. Um, could mean various different things, but in general, maybe you could to say something like, let's say you look up how to do something, and then you're going to implement these into actionable steps. What's the next step, right? Or what are you going to do now that you have some information to work with? Um, so nothing else. So this starts with a vague look into this request and ends with one small action we can test presenting a presenting a few notes as a universal truth, because you you could have some information you don't know as facts yet. So obviously, um, you don't want to say something universal truth unless you have tried it and know it's true, right? Or you have yet to experience this, or you have yet to implement and know what this stuff is. Hence, why you were just researching it, and now you're trying to turn this into actions based off of what you just learned. Like you're still figuring something out and now trying to implement it, right? Um, as per usual, I'm gonna read off. Gonna say like a sentence that kind of describes the general prompt. There's gonna be 5 prompts that makes up an entire system, and that system does exactly what I kind of stated at first, which is you're gonna build a research to action loop that stays honest. So I'm going to read off a sentence that kind of describes each prompt, and then I'm going to flip to the screen. I'm going to visually show you every single prompt and read every single one of them and read the answer of every single one of them and explain why every single one of these prompts makes up the system, and you'll literally just see that that's literally what it's doing. So I'll just explain and showcase the actual system with 5 prompts, right? As per usual. So one thing I'll say real quick is research is not a report. It is a way to make the next decision with less guessing. Self-explanatory sentence, really. But that research is giving you enough information to make literally educated guess on where you should look next for more information, or what giving you're informed about what you're doing in this with this thing at all, right? So if you're going to take some actions and you do some research, you didn't do any research, you might not know what action to take, but if you do some research, you have at least an idea. You might actually just gain the answer from the research, but if you don't, you have an idea. You're not just completely oblivious to anything that's going on. Now you have a little something to work with, right? If this picture has not been painted yet, you're starting to paint it a little bit, and you can start to puzzle piece the rest together over time based on what you have so far. Um, First prompt will be like I said, sentences to kind of just give a summary of what's gonna go on in each prompt before I flip to the screen and showcase and read all of it, right? So the first prompt is first define the question, the evidence, and the decision. This prevents broad browsing with no endpoint. Obviously, you have to read something to know what it's saying, but maybe this can help you go to sections that might help you better. Or if you're literally asking AI questions, you know, a question to ask, or you might know some words or keywords that have to do with information that you need to like uh, probably seek out of an entire report or essay or book, right? Gives you some guidelines to work with. Um, Next, so the second prompt is make every observation traceable, keep the source and the limitation beside the summary. Um, aka you're documenting where you got all this stuff, right? Um, just in case you want to refer back to it, in any other reason, obviously. Um, or you even serve as a bookmark, like a general place where you found some useful information. You can go back there and maybe find more useful information. Third prompt is now choose a small reversible action. The action responds to evidence it does not claim to prove a result. Um, all right. Showcase more of that when I show the actual prompt. Um, the fourth short is um, more evidence is if more evidence is needed, prepare neutral questions about real past behavior. And then for the fifth prompt is at the end of the week, review learned. You're gonna review learned, tried, measured, and unanswered. So you're gonna review what you learned, what you tried, what you measured, and what is still unanswered. All right, so I'm gonna flip to the screen and showcase all five prompts and read them, and then explain how it works with the system. And actually, it's literally all these prompts make up the system to do exactly what the objective thing you're trying to do is, which is again um, building build a research to action loop that stays honest. Ready? So gonna see if I can replug my phone in here so I don't have to just drop my computer. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna plug in my phone somewhere safe. All right, ready? So I don't have to. Don't want my battery to run out. That'd be the worst because I'd lose all that. Lose this entire video if I did that. So the first prompt is turn. Just make sure it's okay. So the first prompt is turn this research request into a question ledger. And the return is focus questions. Excuse me, focus question, audience or situation, evidence needed, and decision this can inform, and what is out of scope. Do not state a conclusion or invent data. So the question ledger example is so the first focus question is all right, let me just okay, I'm gonna have to okay. The first focus question is how do mid-sized healthcare organizations currently manage rejected and denied claims? Um, oh, it's off the screen. So the bill. All right. So the audience or situation is billing and revenue cycle teams in mid-sized healthcare organizations, and the evidence needed is interviews or documented workflows describing current processes, roles, and tools. And the decision this can inform is whether this workflow warrants deeper research. And what's out of scope is uh, measuring financial impact or evaluating vendors. Oh my goodness. So the next focus question is where do billing teams experience friction in the claims workflow? The audience or situation is billing coordination, billing coordinators and claims specialists handling day-to-day work. The evidence needed is firsthand accounts of specific workflow steps that are difficult um, or difficult, manual, or time consuming. And decisions that this can inform is which parts of the workflow should be examined further. And what's out of scope is assuming the source or cause of the friction. Which tools are used across the claims workflow and how are they used? So, excuse me, the third focus question is which tools are used across the claims workflow and how are they used? The audience or situation for that is teams using, oops, excuse me, can't believe this. Oh, I can't believe this. I also can't scroll right now with the sidebar, so I have to use highlighting and the arrow keys to do all that. All right, so scroll up some more. I was on this. Okay. So the audience, okay. So which one did I just read? Did I say which tools are used across the claims workflow and how are they used? Okay. The audience or situation for this are teams using practice management systems, payer portals, and cleaning houses and tracking tools. The evidence needed is um tool names, workflow documentation, and user descriptions of how each tool fits the process. The decision this can inform is which systems and interactions need further investigation, and what's out of scope for this is comparing vendors or recommending replacements. Um, the fourth focus question is how are unresolved claims tracked and escalated? The audience or situation for this are billing teams and billing managers. The evidence needed is examples of tracking methods, ownership, escalation paths, and decision points. And the decision this can inform is whether additional research into tracking and escalation is warranted. And what is out of scope is assessing performance or proposing a new process. Now, for the fifth focus question with this is what information is still missing from the current understanding of the workflow. The audience and the audience or situation for this is the research team reviewing discovery findings. The evidence needed is gaps, conflicting accounts, and unanswered stakeholder questions. And uh, the decision this can inform is what to investigate in the next research phase. And what's out of scope is filling gaps with assumptions or inferred con- conclusions. Now, let me just make sure that's all. Okay. So, what did that answer do? We turned a research request into a question ledger. And what we got out of that question ledger for each question was there's a focus question, there was the audience or situation, there's the evidence needed, that, and then there was the decision this can inform, and there is a what is out of scope. And we did not state in conclusion or invent data. Um, so there we go with that. Um, Now, the next prompt is create an evidence note from these supplied research notes. For each observation, include the concise claim, supporting source references, the direct evidence, and a limitation. Do not generalize beyond the supplied notes or invent quotes. And then I pasted the notes for an example. Obviously, same with the prior post. I don't think I mentioned that. So the concise claim, the first concise claim was, oh, I can actually do this. Good. Well, I think I pressed both of the excuse me. All right, there's an accident there. I can do this. If I press these both at the same time, I should be able to get, or can I? Never mind. I did the thing that helped me scroll, but it I accidentally clicked out of it. So the first concise claim is the current workflow involves multiple systems and manual steps. The supporting um, the supporting source reference for that is call notes, workflow discussion. The direct evidence for that is we're jumping between a lot of different screens, and the limitation on that is the notes do not identify the specific systems or quantify how often this occurs. Now, the second concise claim is the team reports that items can be missed during the current process. The call notes for this are workflow discussion. What did I just say? The supporting source references for this are call notes and workflow discussion. The direct evidence is it's easy for something to get missed, and the limitation on this is the notes do not establish how often items are missed or why. Now, the third concise claim is rejected and denied claims require additional review and follow up. Now, the supporting source reference for this is, or the supporting source references are call notes, claims, workflow. There's call notes and then there's claims workflow discussion. Now, the direct evidence for this is the claims specialist reviews the reason and updates the account when a claim is rejected or denied. Now, the limitation on this is the notes do not quantify rejection, denial volume, or the time involved. My goodness. Oh my goodness. All right. Let me just try to get exactly to where I just was. My gosh. All right, so we're gonna scroll back. So I did read that third one there. We're gonna go to the fourth one now. So the fourth concise claim is unresolved items are tracked in a shared spreadsheet. The supporting source reference for that is call notes tracking workflow. The call notes and then tracking workflow discussion. The direct evidence is the team keeps track of unresolved items in a shared spreadsheet. And then the limitation on that is the notes do not establish whether the spreadsheet is the only tracking method or how it is maintained. Um, just check the time real quick. Oh my goodness, it's almost 20 minutes. Um, we're gonna do the fifth one real quick. So more complicated issues are escalated in the billing manager. Are escalated to the billing manager. That's the fifth concise claim. The supporting source reference for that is the call notes and the escalation workflow discussion. The direct evidence is more complicated issues are sent to the billing manager for review. And the limitations on this are the notes do not define what qualifies more complicated or how often the escalation occurs. Um, all right. So what happens? What did this answer do? This answer created an evidence note from the supplied research notes. For each observation, we included a concise claim. We included supporting source references. We included direct evidence, and we included a limitation. We did not generalize beyond the supplied notes or invent quotes. I gave it an example to work with. Two things I'll say real quick. So you're gonna have to find it's close to 20 minutes. Anything past 20 minutes, you have to find on YouTube and TikTok, and then also um, I've kind of said this a few times, especially when I'm doing systems that help with businesses. It sounds like a lot of big words. It's really not. It's really just things relevant to what these people need in the project that they're doing, right? So your project may have only one thing you're looking up, and there could be one thing for every category, and maybe it's less categories, but you have to just take what is you can copy and paste all this stuff, and then anything that you don't even know what that word means, you take it out. And anything that, but what happens is if you know what something means, like you're researching something, you know that there's things that you need to try after you research it, you use those words that are applicable and you put that into the prompt, obviously. Just kind of clarifying that real quick. I'm just giving examples that are well fleshed out that take advantage of all these different things so that you could see that the system can kind of fit anything you want to use it for, obviously, when it comes to that specific thing. But like you would tailor it how you need to tailor it. So you just remove everything that doesn't make any sense or is not applicable, and then you add in what makes sense. But the core concept of the system would then bring you to your result, obviously, right? Um, all right, so we're past 20 minutes. Oh my goodness. So I'm gonna scroll down. We're gonna get to the next prompt. Just not get over 30 minutes, right? So the next prompt is the using only these evidence notes propose up to three small reversible next actions for each include action evidence it responds to, assumption being tested, simple measure, and review date placeholder. Do not predict outcomes or present assumptions as facts. And then there's evidence notes which we pasted. So the first thing was sample one recent claim workflow. The action was document one recent rejected or denied claim from intake through resolution, including each handoff and tool used. Evidence it responds to the notes are rejected, denied claims re, denied claims require review and follow up, and that the workflow spans multiple screens and systems. Um, Assumption being tested is a single recent case will reveal enough concrete workflow detail to clarify the steps and handoffs. There's a simple measure is one completed workflow record with each step and role and tool identified in the review date, and we there would have been a date inserted in. The second thing was track unresolved items using the existing spreadsheet. The action was for a short defined period, record each unresolved item already being tracked, including who owns it and whether it is escalated. The evidence it responds to is the team uses a shared spreadsheet for unresolved items with more complicated issues escalated to the billing manager, and the assumption being tested is the existing spreadsheet can provide a clear view of ownership and escalation patterns. The simple measure is number of items recorded with owner and escalation status. And then didn't have a review date, obviously. Again, and then the third is observe one payer portal workflow. The action is have one billing team member walk through one routine payer portal check while documenting the screens and steps involved. The evidence it responds to is the notes state that the team manually checks payer portals and is jumping between a lot of different screens. The assumption being tested is observing the workflow will clarify which screens and manual steps are actually involved. The simple measure is number of screens and tools and manual steps documented in the walkthrough, and then the review date was left blank. Um, so now what did that answer do? What it did was using only these evidence notes propose up to three small reversible next actions. And for each, we're going to include the action, the evidence it responds to, the assumption being tested, the simple measure, and the review date placeholder. Now, that's exactly what we got in the answer based on the notes that I gave it, or the evidence notes that I gave it. The first, let me say the exact word. So the first small reversible action out of the three was sample one recent claim workflow. The second small reversible action was track unresolved items using the existing spreadsheet. And the third small reversible action was observe one payer portal workflow. Now, and then in each section, as you can see, there's a section for action. There's a section for evidence it responds to. There's a section for assumption being tested, and there's a section for a simple measure. And then I didn't have a date for that example, but what happens is each section had all these smaller subsections, basically defining and explaining everything that the prompt asked for based on the notes that I gave it, right? Now for the next prompt, let's check something real quick. All right. Let me go to the next prompt. So the next prompt is create a neutral interview guide for this research question, including opening context, five past behavior questions, follow ups, and three questions to avoid because they are leading or hypothetical. Do not write a sales pitch or assume the participant has a problem. So the research question, I gave an example, and then there's known gaps. I gave an example. Now, the interview guide, here's an example. The opening context is we're trying to understand how billing teams handle claims in their day to day work, particular, particularly rejected or denied claims and the steps, people, and tools involved. There are no right or wrong answers. We're interested in what actually happened in your recent experience rather than what you think happened in the future. So the past behavior questions are walk. The first question is walk me through the most recent rejected or denied claim you handled. The follow up is what happened first. The follow up is the next follow up is what happened next, and the next follow up is who else became involved. The second is tell me about the last time you checked a payer portal. The first follow up is what were you trying to find? The second follow up is what other systems or screens did you use? The third follow up is what did you do with the information afterwards? The third is tell me about the last unresolved item you tracked. The first follow up, looking at the time, okay, the first follow up is where did you record it? The second follow up is who owned the next step, and the third follow up is how was it? It's how was its status updated? The fourth is describe the most recent issue you escalated to a billing manager. The first follow up is what led to the escalation. The second follow up is what information did you provide. And the third follow up is what happened afterwards. The fifth is tell me about a recent time something was difficult to keep track of. The first follow up is what specifically happened. The second follow up is how did you notice it. And the third follow up is what did you do next. Now, the questions to avoid is would a tool that put everything into one place help? That's leading towards a solution. That's not what you're trying to do there. And how much time? The second one would be how much time would you save if this process were automated? Obviously, that's hypothetical and it assumes a benefit. That's not your aim there, obviously. And then the third question to avoid is jumping between screens your biggest problem, and that's presupposes leading and presupposes a problem, which is not the aim that you wanted with that question. Now, what did this answer do? What it did was it created a neutral interview guide for this exact research question, including opening context. There's five past behavior questions, there's follow ups, and there's three questions to avoid because they are leading or hypothetical. And you do not write a sales pitch or assume the participant has a problem. And then as you can see, that's exactly what this did. So this was a like we said, a neutral interview guide for this research question. It included opening context and five past behavioral questions. So there's the five behavioral questions, but it is based on, like we said, there's opening context. So the context would be the things that first was, for example, walk me through the most recent rejected or denied claim you handled. The second was tell me about the last time you checked the payer portal. The third was tell me about the last unresolved item you tracked. The fourth was describe the most recent issue you escalated to a billing manager. And the fifth was tell me about a recent time something was difficult to keep track of. And obviously, um, based off of those, there was three follow up questions. Excuse me, there was and then there's three follow up questions, and then we put at the bottom three questions to avoid because they're leading or hypothetical. So the prompt gave exactly what I asked it to based off the notes I gave it. So this is gonna go over 30 minutes, unfortunately. So okay. So the last prompt is create a weekly research to action review from the material below. Use sections, and then there's the learn section, there's the actions tried section, there's the uh, measures available section, and there's the unanswered question section, and there's the next owner section. Use only stated information and leave unavailable measures um, as not provided. And then I gave it material to work with for the example. So for this, the weekly research to action review, what we learned was the current billing workflow spans a practice management system, payer portals, and a clearinghouse, a shared spreadsheet, email, and weekly billing meeting. The roles mentioned include billing coordinator, claims specialist, billing manager, and practice staff. The team manually checks payer portals. Rejected and denied claims require review and follow up. More complicated issues are escalated to the billing manager. Um, the team stated we're jumping between a lot of different screens, and the team has also stated it's easy for something to get missed. Um, the actions tried are we document one recent rejected or denied claim from intake through resolution. The next action tried was track unresolved items through, track unresolved items using the existing shared spreadsheet. The third action tried was observe one routine payer portal workflow and document the screens and manual steps. The fourth action tried is conduct interviews, focus on recent actual workflow experiences. The measures available is number of workflow steps, roles, and tools documented, not provided, the number of unresolved items recorded with the owner and escalation status not provided, the number of screens and manual steps documented in a payer portal walkthrough are not provided, and the frequency of volume of rejected or denied claims not provided, and time spent checking payer portals is not provided. The unanswered questions is what specifically causes items to get missed, how frequently are claims rejected or denied, and how much time is spent checking payer portals, and who owns each stage of the workflow, how are urgent items identified and prioritized, and what happens after escalation to the billing manager, and are there other stakeholders or systems not yet identified. The next owner is, I didn't give that in the example, so it's not provided. And the next action is ask the prospect whether they are willing to walk through one recent rejected or denied claim from start to finish, focusing on steps, rules, tools, and follow up. Now, what did that answer do? This answer, we created a weekly research to action review from the material below. And we use sections to divide this information. In the sections where it learned, there was actions tried, there was measures available, there's unanswered questions, and then there's next owner. And we use only stated information, and we leave unavailable measures as not provided. So as you can see, the weekly action review, there's a section for learn, there's a section for actions tried, there's a sections for measures available, and there's a section for unanswered questions, then there's a section for next owner. Now, so basically what I just explained in all 5 prompts, that makes up the system of building a research to action loop that stays honest. Um, Gathering information and then organizing it and being able to then now come up with the plan or how you're going to implement or your next steps with that information, right? Um, so you can actually just logically understand how to do this, or you could just try to make sense and do what makes sense to you regarding something like this, right? Because that's usually what people do. Literally, that's literally how people do this. They just try to make sense, and maybe the answers they come up with, maybe it's right. Maybe they start coming up with the next steps, and the next steps are accurate, and it brings them right to where they have to go. Maybe they gather some information, They try to implement it, it doesn't work, but they get some experience about what to do and what not to do, research more, gather more information, implement more, trial and error different things. Maybe they do an experiment where they clump together a bunch of variables and try that, and then they have another test going where they're clumping it together other variables or mixed variables and trying that, and they just keep going until they figure out something that works. But you can also have a system do all this for you, and here it is, right? Now, as I usually say, if there's anything I said in this video that was helpful, that is amazing. Excuse me, what I usually say first is you can find systems like this and prompts like this, system or prompts, right? The prompts can be used by themselves, but a lot of these prompts make up systems, and we can give you prompts that make up entire systems so that you can input information and then bring that information all the way through the system into now you have a full system helping you achieve your goal or your answer or whatever it is you need, right? Now, if you'd like access to high quality prompts or systems like this and more, you can find them inside Promptify. It's free to start, and the link is in the bio. If there's anything I said today that was helpful for you, that is amazing, and I hope you have a great day.